Hello friend listener, today on the Creepypasta channel, the death of my sister. I was only 17 years old at that time, living on a farm far from the city and loved to play pranks on my cousins. But that day was different. I spent the whole night tricking my cousins and left them scared before going to bed. My sister told me that if I kept doing that, when she died, she would come to play a prank on me. I took it as a joke, but the truth came to light a year later, when she died in a car accident. I didn't even remember what she had said. So, when it was 1 year since her death, I was alone at home, thinking about what had happened, how I became an only child. It was late at night, and my house, in fact the place where I lived, always had a scary aspect with which I was already accustomed. That night, however, my life changed. The door of my room was ajar and led to the dark kitchen. I heard when the drawers of the kitchen opened slowly, one by one. I got up scared from bed. My mother had gone to the city with my stepfather. I was alone. It could only be a thief in the house. I cried involuntarily and closed my eyes. Then I heard my sister's unmistakable laughter. She was in the kitchen. I trembled, looked through the crack of the door, and saw her white dress, the same one she wore at her 15th birthday party and with which she was buried. She turned around and I could see her face. It was my sister. I was speechless, opened the window of the room and jumped, running to my grandmother's house. She didn't believe me and sent me back home, but my sister was there. I returned praying everything I knew, but then I decided not to enter. I stayed outside waiting for dawn. That's when she called me, crying. I didn't respond. She called me again and I asked her to leave. She kept crying and I decided to enter. After all, she was my sister, and I wouldn't harm myself nor hurt myself. She loved me. Upon entering the house, I realized that her crying came from my mother's room. She was on the bed, paralyzed, only moving her eyes. I said, crying, "Michelle, are you okay?" She replied, "Sing to me." I asked, "Sing what?" She replied again, "O little angel of heaven." We used to sing together. Actually, she wanted to say Heavenly Mother, a song we learned together, but for some reason, she couldn't say the word mother. I sang crying the song the way she asked, but I couldn't anymore and she insisted for me to continue. So, I said, "It's not little angel of heaven, it's Heavenly Mother, and I want to sing it right." She cried and asked me to come closer. I obeyed. She held me and I felt the strangest sensation of my life. My head was spinning, I saw a car flipping, blood and firefighters. Then she let go of me and I fell to the ground, desperate. She said, "She's coming." I looked at the window and saw my mother and my stepfather looking at me with the most serious and cold expressions I've ever seen. It was the last thing I saw before passing out. I woke up the next day with my grandmother knocking on the door. I was in my mother's bed, thinking that all that had been a dream. When I went to receive my grandmother, I understood everything. My mother and my stepfather had died that night in an accident, and my sister had appeared to give me a warning. After that, I left the house and now live with my wife in the city center. Thank you for your presence, listener. This is a supposedly fictional story. I hope you enjoyed it and see you soon, if fate allows.